Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out 2-sentence horror. Story 1. Dad got drunk and broke mom's face. Back to the taxidermist, this time for repairs. Story 2. They dismissed my psychic abilities while I heard 1,000 voices in the city tormenting me, competing to be heard. I thought the solitude of the Nevada desert would help me, but the ones I hear now scream, begging to be dug up, and I have no idea where they are. Story 3. I always liked how small and skinny my girlfriend was. It made it easier to hide the body parts. Story 4. I'm afraid were the words solemnly scribbled into that notebook. But there was a problem with the way it was written. It was almost as if those words were hung on the outside, looking in. Story 5. I parted the snow-covered bushes outside of town expecting to see my grandmother, whose voice I had been following for at least an hour. Instead I was met with the sight of a hideous, one-legged, hag who quickly bound me tightly with a red rope before I could utter a single scream. Story 6. My mother made me a perfect airtight schedule and had consulted everyone to make sure it was perfect. Everyone except me. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 7. Reading my wife's suicide note, I can't help but tear up. The piece of paper and start over it has to be perfect. Story 8. The man that killed my wife kneeled beneath the guillotine as his sentence was read, and I heard a woman in the crowd sobbing and professing her relief that at least her son would die a quick death. She was about to find out that I had spent the night dulling the guillotine's blade. Story 9. It was my first morning waking up with my right hand spider tattoo. That's weird, I thought it was on my left. Story 10. Bored with my life when the car wash called for the owner of the Porsche Carrera twice with no response, I hopped in it and sped off. Now I know why it wasn't claimed. It used to require a blood tribute once a week, now it's up to daily. Story 11. Losing my eye really messed with my depth perception. When I dropped my pen I quickly dipped down to grab it, but didn't properly gauge the distance between my remaining eye and the corner of my oak desk. Story 12. Within the creaky old wooden shack, the detective cast a quizzical eye over the victim's broken, contorted body under the cloudy moonlit sky. It wasn't just the shack creaking as he realized the distance between the body and him steadily closing each time the clouds parted. Story 13. I always thought the scariest thing I'd ever see was that night a decrepit face was staring in at me through my bedroom window. So imagine my surprise when I was walking home a week later and saw it staring out. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 14. After months of her begging, I finally got my daughter a pet rat. I just wish I'd warned her about degloving. Story 15. Honey, come look at the new blinds I got for the house. I know they don't work as well as the Defs, but give them a little extra time and they can do the labor well enough. Story 16. I have seen you take countless lives and there's no redemption for your soul, said God as he cast me to hell for eternity. We've had thousands of your type down here recently, explained Satan, but they'll keep coming until someone explains to God what a video game is. Story 17. After clearing brush for 3 hours I stood back and admired my work. My neighbor then yelled, "I've been meaning to do that for years, you're so lucky poison ivy doesn't affect you." Story 18. Child Protective Services recently performed an investigation on my family but unfortunately couldn't find any proof of abuse within the household. Even if my husband shows them the multiple bruises he sustains, nobody will ever believe him over his innocent wife. Story 19. The cause of the crows intensified as the remaining children's screams echoed deep within the forest. Intoxicated by the perceived laughter of his avian audience, the aspiring comedian continued his Gallagher-inspired performance while the crows and trees applauded him to tears. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 20. NOV23 heaving and layered in sweat, my heart fluttered when the doctor said he could see another baby coming. I don't know how many surprise babies I've birthed by now, but my vision is spotty and the room starts to fade as I hear the doctors ask each other how many more there could be. Story 21. It was beautifully efficient how the machines replaced all manual labor, allowing humanity to truly live lives of utopic leisure. And though the humans killed themselves off, the cattle were still being raised, slaughtered, and packaged in numbers fitting with the projected linear growth of the world populations. Story 22. Another group of people has camped here in my house again, so I try to get them out like usual. After sitting in this cramped darkness for a while, I finally hear words saying I don't think this ghost trap is working. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 23. DEC-23RR patrols by the river. Sophie's kidnappers must be found. I smiled at the subtle nods from the filthy rich businessmen standing beside me at the press conference, knowing with my little misdirection my mayoral re-election will soon be all but assured. Story 24. Last month I learned my wife was having an affair, and tonight I was finally going to tell her I was leaving. When I tasted the peanuts in my dessert, I instantly knew I waited too long. Story 25. As a grown man I smiled at myself for thinking even for a second that something would reach out from under the bed and grab my foot on the way to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Then inching my way through the pitch-black room I bumped into someone and my smile turned into a scream. Story 26. I finally worked up the courage to try my first deep water scuba dive. Oh shit, I'm freaking out, I can't breathe, I must be running out of air. I'm just going to swim for the surface as fast as I can, oh god please get me out of here. Story 27. DEC-23 ready for some double trouble. Twins Mary and Amy set out for the bar. The Hacksaw twins Randy and Rudy also set out for the bar, just not for drinks. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 28. Taking his normal shortcut through an alley, the young man happened upon a murder scene. Panic set in as red and blue lights suddenly illuminated everything around him. Story 29. I was going to make him pay for catfishing me. All my other victims had been women. Story 30. I close my eyes tightly and pray silently that my tonsillectomy goes well. Right before I blacked out from the anesthesia, I vaguely heard one of the medical personnel ask the other, "Is it the right or left leg?" Story 31. My girlfriend grabbed a knife from the kitchen table when she heard me talking on the phone to another woman. I wish the 911 responder had been male. Story 32. I never loved you and I'm glad you are going to die soon, said my reflection in the bathroom mirror this morning. Story 33. Mom caught me playing doctor with the next door neighbor. Next time, use a tarp, she reminded me as I cleaned up my neighbor's dissected corpse from the living room floor. Story 34. You're gonna bore me to death, he moaned petulantly. Those were his last words before I rammed the drill into his skull and turned it on full. Story 35. After my dad was cremated I noticed I had a hard time keeping my food down. Back then I chalked it up to stress. That was until my mom told me to help move his urn, and I took note on how light it felt compared to only a few weeks prior. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 36. I bit my lip, pulling the blankets tighter around my head when I heard hoof falls on the roof. You've been a very naughty boy, the deep voice boomed in my ear. Story 37. The man sobbed through his interrogation. No, it wasn't some weird fetish thing, it was because my mom was an environmentalist. I was trying to dig her up because she always told me she wanted to be composted instead of rotting away in a box, but I swear I had no idea there was someone else buried with her. Story 38. I don't understand, I warned you guys so much, the daughter cried out hysterical. As the flames grew higher and higher on the family home, it was hard to ignore the thick smell of burning laundry that spread for miles. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 39. When the genie told me I had one wish, I wished to meet my music idol Jimmy Morrison. I didn't think Jimmy was in hell, otherwise I might have asked if there was an exit door. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 40. DEC23. I had double vision as I tried to shake the fuzz from my brain after the sucker punch. But I couldn't figure out why I was only seeing two of myself and not of anything else. Story 41. The devil shivers when he is cold. Story 42. Once I found the cure to cancer, I took it straight to the pharmacy company's HQ. As I was explaining everything, he gave me a wonderful looking cookie. Sorry, what was I talking about again? Story 43. It felt so good to finally take care of that itch. Until that asshole who wasn't looking where he was going bumped into my arm and pushed my finger deep into my eye. Story 44. In One Piece, I said as the executioner asked me how I wanted to die. I screamed as he pulled out a sewing needle and an axe. Story 45. It's very hard and scary being so far away from your home, you know. But if I run far enough away from that damn house, it will at least feel a little closer. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 46. He knows when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, but don't look under your bed. Story 47. I sat and watched as the homeless shelter burned to the ground, mesmerized by the sight of my work, even as the police handcuffed me and threw me into a van. They drove me to the border and uncuffed me, before the government agent waiting there handed me a suitcase full of cash and thanked me for helping them improve the annual reports. Story 48. As was my right as a samurai, I cut down the peasant when he insulted me. As his left half regrew, and those bone-like whips grew from his back, I realized that would be the last time I drew my blade. Story 49. Today's the day my husband's cancer-free, it's time to celebrate. I called my mother-in-law to tell her the news, but she was in tears, telling me that he's been gone for years and please take my medication. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.